In a world full of noise, it's easy to lose trust in yourself. But what if you could become your own authority again? And you did it using a system that's been around for over 2,500 years. This is what numerology is. It's not a prediction, it's not a superstition, but a framework for finding the inner freedom to trust yourself and your lived experience above all others. I used to think that freedom came from outside of me, in success or relationships and being liked, but I was wrong. True freedom lives in the choices we make from the inside. And for me, numerology became that roadmap for inner freedom. Welcome to the world of numerology, a language your soul already knows will lead you to true inner freedom and soul organizing your life. Hi, my name is Wynne Lacey. I'm a psychotherapist and obviously numerologist who believes that numerology is an integral part of anybody's journey to develop an unshakable inner state of peace and confidence that no one can take away from you. That confidence will create a feeling of freedom and you'll become the master of your emotional and mental faculties. And you can do this in a clinical therapy session to overcome your ego's relentless pursuit to be successful in the world, or through spiritual pursuits where you're in the world but not of it, as they say. The following episodes and videos on this channel will teach you why numerology matters today. If you're skeptical about these concepts, perfect. Glad you're here. I was too. If you want to go even deeper, please go to my website, soulganize.com, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Numerology shows up today all around the world and has been a part of humanity's desire to be free from authoritarian rule for thousands of years. Pythagoras is a very famous ancient Greek philosopher, and he's thought to be one of the leaders in making numerology a legitimate model for self-actualization. If you're not sure what I mean by that, I think self-actualization is trusting your own lived experience above all other authorities. And his writings date back to 500 BC. So, yeah, he's legit. And this has stood up for the long test of time. And even though numerology hasn't gone away, I do not see today's popular version really staying to the original purpose it was intended for. Most people may be searching up numerology these days, use it as a quick prediction or a personality test rather than a true self-organizing, self-actualization tool that can serve you each and every day of your life and become more and more vibrant as you keep using it. And ultimately, what I love about it, it sets me free from a lot of authoritarian and societal pressures. So again, I think numerology is important because it's the language of your soul. And any language that you learn helps give you more freedom to communicate and an ability to understand the world around you and even who you are at a deeper level. And again, because numerology is the language of the soul, it can help you communicate between different realities. Yeah, there's more than one reality. We have the biological reality of earth, water, air, fire, and ether. And then we have this sort of constructed reality that are really just concepts that we all agree upon, such as democracy or chair. But most importantly, there's this bigger ultimate reality that is the space that holds all of this together, the planets, the galaxies, the biology, the man-made structures, and our larger consciousness, which I would call our souls. So numerology definitely wants to communicate more to you than meets your eyes and ears, and it wants to bridge these multiple realities into one full, beautiful human experience. It can also help chisel away your specific karmas, which I would say are the consequences of our less than perfectly lived lives. And we'll cover this in depth in a future episode. It also helps you express your dharma, which is ultimately your life purpose and the reason you're on this planet. So that's a lot. Numerology can do a lot for you. Like I said, hopefully soul organize your life. So I want to teach you the language in these videos and the rules of numerology, really like the ingredients that we all have to use, but not tell you what to do with it, how to use it in your own life, but let you interpret it for yourself. For example, when you learn and use a language like English, it is not the reason that you get the job or the romantic partner, but it is what you use to communicate your thoughts, your feelings, your strengths, your personality while you pursue those relationships. It's a philosophy to apply to your own life and a framework for self-organizing and self-expression. Imagine that your soul wants to talk to you. It will use whatever signs you might pay attention to. For example, you might see 111 on the microwave all the time, or favorite numbers on people's shirts on a sporting event, or repeating numbers on a gas pump, or waking up at the exact same time every day. Your soul will try to talk to you. We don't always listen, but understanding that these are signs is very powerful. And I always think it's more powerful to speak two languages rather than just one. And ultimately, I want all of us to have deeper conversations with our souls because let's be honest, our egos are inflating and causing all kinds of ruckus, anxiety, and depression. Your soul wants you to be happy and it wants to inflate your dharma and your soul mission. So we're going to deflate our egos and inflate our dharmas. So, who should learn numerology and why today in 2025 and on? Well, let me start from the perspective of gaining personal freedom, which is obviously one of my highest values. And on July 4th, 2026, next year, we Americans will be celebrating 250 years of the United States and of this personal pursuit of personal liberties and this grand experiment of being a free republic. So, how are we doing? Well, I was taught in public school that we were doing pretty amazing, and I changed my mind while living through the pandemic of 2020. RFK Jr., one of my favorite thought leaders on freedom and democracy in our country, speaks in a very eloquent way about this. I started following him when I questioned what was happening during the COVID shutdowns, the mandates, and being fired from my job for resisting to take the vaccine. As a therapist, the COVID shutdown appeared more like psychological warfare after a while as a way to shepherd people all over the world while disguising it as wanting what's best for us. We were told during this time to trust the experts, don't question, don't do your own research. And I have opened my eyes to stop necessarily trusting the experts, specifically because it's not a feature of science or democracy. Rather, blindly trusting experts and authorities is more a feature of religion and government. So, anyway, RFK Jr. thinks that democracy gives each of us the individual obligation and burden to do our own research and make our own determination about what we are being told. Meaning that in a democracy, we're supposed to be making up our own minds with the information that we have. Numerology can definitely help you do this. In a astrology perspective, most astrologists on the spiritual side of things agree that in 2024, just last year, Pluto, the planet, returned to the exact position that it was when the USA was born. So in 1776 was the Declaration of Independence signed, and that is what created the personal values that we all supposedly share. And the orbital period of Pluto is 248 years. So if you add 248 years to 1776, you get the year 2024. So again, Pluto is the planet representing individual power. And from 2024 to 2044, Pluto will now be moving into the age of Aquarius, which is also brand new for us for thousands of years. And so now in this time frame, we are supposed to be, according to astrology, focusing on our individual expressions above all else. So we must learn to better express our individuality, our virtues, and our subjective viewpoints without harming others. The goal is to create a collective environment that is abundant with physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health for all to pursue, but not at the cost of other people. So, you know what? It's time for us to get our names and birth dates in our charts and have a desire to own our own authority and be open to learning something new through a new lens. So, again, if you can't tell, my highest value in life is freedom. And the concept of freedom is complicated when we're dealing with the outside world and politics and other people's views of right or wrong. But as a child, I knew what freedom felt like. I would run through the park and the forest alongside my house for hours, and I could feel this connection between my body and the trees and the water and the animals and the larger creative energy that I just couldn't see. This feeling anchored to me, but began to dim and compress over time. I especially remember during high school. I was trying to create that same sense of freedom through the outside world, through my relationships and my material success. And no surprise today, but the outside world doesn't actually create that inner freedom. It creates rules, restrictions, and complicated relationships. So again, freedom is an internal feeling. So in my 30s, I wondered, how can I maintain this sense of freedom if it was invisible and an invisible feeling inside of me? Well, for me, it was to only become my own authority and to trust my lived experience and my emotional guidance system above all other human viewpoints. So, numerology gives me first and foremost this self authority. It is up for me to determine how my chart speaks to me and how I want to manage my own direction. This does not at all mean that I negate my outside life. In fact, I'm more involved in my outside life and relationships than ever. So, numerology began to give me this big picture view of how others can be different than me, but no better or worse. It allows a lot of the human judgment to fall away that I had. And now, as a professional therapist, I help others to understand how to get along emotionally with others who are on very different paths or have very different views of what might be right or wrong for them. So, if you want to develop this inner sense of freedom and become your own authority while getting along with others who maybe think very different from you, consider learning numerology here for yourself. If you need some additional direction, you can book a session with me. I can go over any questions you have. We can do your numerology chart reading, and I can help get you started on your own journey. Every session, I have an access to a free copy of my ebook, So Organize Your Life. And again, all the links are in the episode notes below, or how, again, you can just go to soulganize.com for more of that. As someone who practices numerology herself every day alongside others, I use my emotions to get along with them, but I'm also watching the flow of my chart every day. And I can't practice anything perfectly, but I can think about how I want to integrate it into my daily intentions. This, again, is something you can do by yourself. You do not need religion or need permission from someone else to figure out what your intentions are and put them into action. It also created this crazy spaciousness inside of me that actually allowed for all kinds of new freaky connections with spirit guides and people who have passed. So when you create this inner freedom, you connect to things you feel but don't see. It keeps building this crazy supernatural connection in me. And I would imagine it would do the same for you. Numerology can also, as I've stated already, complement other modalities such as astrology, maybe even human design, tarot, or channeled writings and scriptures. Astrology will often give me a bigger picture in detail that numerology didn't at the time, but then numerology helps me implement, again, my own individual perspective in the bigger picture. And then deep wisdom, such as found in places like Buddhism, gives generic overall guidelines like following the Eightfold Path, but how to put that in your daily energetics is better job for numerology. And all number symbols have significance and meaning. They're not just for calculating quantities anymore. Actually, before that, they were qualitative in nature, meaning they described human conditions. And we'll talk about all this framework in later episodes. But when we get into the language itself, it gives you a real clue as to what might even be going on in the broader sense of the world. For example, this year is 2025, which is considered a 9 symbol year. That's because 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 is 9. So understanding the 9 in the world and in your chart can give you clues as to what maybe doesn't look very logical. It can also calm your nervous system in a way for you to learn why something might be starting or ending in your own particular life that didn't make sense to you or could have been abrupt. So again, I find it helps me understand the world and myself in a way that I can't through just coping and tolerating with rational thoughts. So the last thing I want to say is ancient wisdom such as numerology is still the best in my viewpoint because it has stood up the test of time. And I know personally it has helped me move from programmed outer beliefs that I was taught into a deep inner feeling, a knowing, which becomes so helpful when I'm pursuing my life in the way that I want to. It just helps me make the best decisions for myself. I hope it would help you make the best decisions for yourself, regardless of the situation you're in or the advice that you're hearing. So, if you want to go deeper and learn about your own inner authority, you can book a session with me. I'll go over your questions. You can get a chart reading. And again, included in every session is a free copy of my ebook, So Organize Your Life. You can go to soulganize.com right now for more. And again, all the links are in the episode notes below. Until next time, stay free and see you in the next video.